And Vidura, who is Yamaraj, was cursed because of some misunderstanding with Munduka Muni. But also as for preaching purposes, he came to spend the 100 years, brother of Dhritarashtra and Pandu. And so Vidura, he came to give enlightenment and guidance, just like the Srimad Bhagavatam, the whole scenario. Here's a emperor, going to be the emperor of the world, from his father was Vichitravirya. Yeah. And Bhishma also was not going to take. So Dhritarashtra was next in line for the entire empire, but because he was born blind, he was disqualified. So then Pandu became the emperor. At any rate, Yudhishthira Maharaj, after the battle of Kurukshetra, was feeling great sorrow and anxiety because he felt, because of me, so many people have passed away, died. And Dhritarashtra, Uncle Dhritarashtra and Gandhari, they lost all their sons and their grandsons. But still, Yudhishthira Maharaj, even though there was a lot of political and royal intrigue, it's all like just showing how, even though he had so much opulence, Dhritarashtra, and so much respect and wealth and whatnot, Vidura came to tell him that now quit home, finished, just surrender yourself to the Supreme Lord. So many of us, I know Dhritarashtra, he came at a young age and took shelter of Srila Prabhupada and Srila Prabhupada's mission. And just by assisting in any capacity, even Prabhupada said, even if one doesn't even accept Krishna, but just appreciates, comes to the temple and appreciates, what to speak of surrendering or giving one's life to the service of his spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada, despite all difficulties and all challenges, he was always remembering his spiritual master. He was remembering Bhaktisiddhanta's message. We heard this morning how Srila Prabhupada, upon seeing the young devotees growing and developing, he stayed outside, just waited to call his spiritual master to come and see the glory of spreading Krishna consciousness. So to whatever capacity one can render service to Srila Prabhupada and the mission of Krishna consciousness, this is very pleasing to Lord Krishna. It's very pleasing to everyone, because it's such a hard thing to give up family, our attachments to wealth, reputation, what to speak of followers, and we have so many ambitions in this world, and that's the reason we're in this world, because we wanted to be independent, and Krishna doesn't interfere with our independence. Krishna allows us to freely express, but always Krishna's personally guiding us and sending his representatives in the form of Srila Prabhupada. And when Srila Prabhupada came, I think it was Boston Harbor, in one of his poems he wrote how, Krishna, my dear friend, I miss being with you and playing in the, garden. So Prabhupada did reveal that he has an intimate relationship with Krishna and that he was hankering to again be with Krishna back home. And just out of order from Krishna and out of order from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Srila Prabhupada, at risk of life and everything, came to give this message of Krishna consciousness. And somehow Dhritarashtra Prabhu took that message and dedicated his life for the Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan mission. And he had a lot of opportunity in Vrindavan, spent quite many years here in Braj, and his heart was here, and somehow by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and all devotees, he came, lived in Vrindavan, and left this world in Sri Vrindavan Dham, and surrounded by loving, caring devotees. So this is our purpose in life, is to accept the spiritual master and render service to the spiritual master, always working on ourselves by hearing the glories of Krishna and chanting. Even though it may seem routine, just by seeing the deity every day, it's clearing the dirt from the heart. By hearing in the association of devotees, it's a medicine. It's very cleansing. So when the time was right, Krishna comes in the form of time, and time takes away everyone's vitality, takes everyone's life. And old age is a symptom that death is coming very soon. For all of us, for everyone. Obviously, we're thinking, oh, so-and-so's died, but I will not die, at least not now. And despite, no matter how much we're suffering in the body, we're still very much attached. Because that soul's eternal, it's part of Krishna. So naturally we have this fear of having to leave the body. But there's so many wonderful instructions. We're so fortunate to have proper understanding and guidance by Vidura explaining to Dhritarashtra, now just focus and take shelter of the Lord. Give up your attachments. I think even Hiranyakashipu was giving some good preaching to his in-laws when Hiranyaksha was killed. He was giving some philosophical talks about do not lament. Anyway, this is our life Srimad Bhagavatam, and Srila Prabhupada came, performed a miracle of spreading Krishna consciousness and giving shelter and shade to all the devotees who have chosen to be part of this wonderful society, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So, very mild-mannered, and Dritz was always Prabhupada's man. He wasn't ambitious for, going here and going there necessarily. Just stay loyal to Prabhupada's mission. I know we have a great responsibility, and I feel that he got the blessings of Srila Prabhupada. So hopefully we can all have the same great fortune of Prabhupada bringing us back to Vrindavan when the time is up to leave this body and carry on with the mission of Krishna consciousness. Dhritarashtra Prabhu ki. So many more people. You want to go next, Krishnamurti? Okay. Krishnamurti is always fired up. Feast is at 1:30.
I won't forget that. So, Dhritarashtra Prabhu, like many other God brothers and God sisters I've known, was very humble, very meek and mild devotee, and I always made the same mistake again and again, thinking, in my warped mind that, judging how advanced is this person. But actually, after they leave, I realize this devotee was very advanced. He never lost his cool. He was very calm and mild, peaceful. He was very attached to the deities. I mean, he'd go up to see the deities, and he'd be all excited like a small child. And I was actually envious of that. I'd be standing next to him, thinking, why can't I be like that? He would be excited when the curtains would open. His voice would go a pitch higher. He'd say, Jai Radha Shama Sundar. He was really genuinely attached, and my only regret is that I didn't realize, actually who he really was at the time. He was actually more, and in a few small pastimes, he moved to Vancouver, and he did book distribution for years in the freezing cold in Canada, many years. Also, he was one of the only people that Gopal Krishna Maharaj could trust during one of their marathons to count all the money. He called Dhritarashtra to be the accountant and every daily because he knew Dhritarashtra would not take one paisa ever. He was extremely trustworthy. So there's that also. And Dhritarashtra, he was just very calm and mild. He didn't want to hear anything bad about anybody. I would go on sometimes complaining about this and that, and he never really wanted to hear it, which is another quality that I'm working on. We're a work in progress. But actually, and he'd go back and collect in the West, but he did that just so he can be here and support himself and his wife. He'd go every year for a month or something, and he never really enjoyed it, but he did what he had to do. And I'd see him every morning, pretty much every morning, for greeting the deities and Guru Puja. He would always get excited to go on the altar and bathe the deities during the ceremonies. Real excited, always. He'd say, "Are you going to bathe the deities?" I said, "No, I can't stand that long." He said, "Oh, you're missing it." And he used to tell me, "You got to get Charanamrita. It says in the scriptures, if you even take a little Charanamrita, there's amazing benefits." He would always push me to get if I would walk past the Charanamrita person, he'd chastise me. No, we have to stop and get Charanamrita. He was actually a larger than life devotee. And I know one more story. He more or less told me. I believe the reason why Prabhupada named him Dhritarashtra was because, like King Dhritarashtra, he headed north. He had a dream or something. He said an inspiration to go north. And he went to the temple, and then he went and saw Prabhupada, and pretty much that was it after that. And then when Prabhupada gave him that name, it was kind of like an inside joke between him and Srila Prabhupada. Because Srila Prabhupada knew that he traveled north to go and meet Prabhupada and join up with the devotees. So that's about all I have. But he was, we should never misjudge other devotees because, otherwise, unfortunately, we won't realize until after they're gone what their caliber, what kind of quality of a devotee it was. So that's my only regret. I helped him very much before he left, and I'm glad I did because he truly deserved it. But now I'm appreciating who he actually was. Jai. Dhritarashtra Prabhu ki jai.
Namo Vishnu Vidaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tanamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nirvisi Sundravani Maskatri Desatane. So this is a very solemn day. We've come here to remember and to glorify one of our dear God brothers and friends, Dhritarashtra Prabhu. I have known him for many years. And we met the first time here in Vrindavan. And at that time, the peripheral views of Vrindavan was very barren. There was nothing. And there were few devotees, especially Western devotees. So one by one we became friends, and we had a small clique of foreigners who we would share different experiences with, and one of our favorite pastimes was eating. And so we would take turns. So at this time, Tulsi and Dhritarashtra were living in an apartment over here, just off the Parikaram Road. And they would invite a select few of us over, and we would have breakfast, pancakes, usually pancakes. Yes, lots of honey. For lunch, most of the time, I would cook, make something nice, but facilities at that time were very sparse, and so in order to get ingredients for these types of dishes, we would have to go to Delhi. So we'd rent a taxi, go to Delhi, we would buy pasta, we would buy cheese, we would buy whatever we would need in order to prepare those preparations for these special occasions. So, as I said, this became a ritual which we carried for many, 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 many years. So our group of friends, Pundarik Vijayanidhi, Krishnadas Kaviraj, myself, Dhritarashtra, Tulsi, there might have been a few others. One by one, we dispersed, and we had left Vrindavan. So we had been here already for about 9 years. I think at that time also, Panchagoda Prabhu first came to Vrindavan, 1993. And as time went on, and just as Krishnamurti said that Dhritarashtra would never take any money, and so some of us, we had some savings, and we came and we utilized whatever we had to live, and one by one, the devotees began to leave Vrindavan and go back to the United States. And most of the devotees wound up going to Alachua, which is in Florida. And there, of course, after leaving Vrindavan, life in the United States was quite difficult because in order to survive in the United States, you need excess amounts of money. And so we had to endeavor to get money. And at the same time, Tulsi was going to school to get her degree in nursing, and very diligent, as most Russian are very smart compared to us Americans who are kind of dim-witted. But she studied very hard, and along with two other girls, one other Russian girl, and also Jamuna, who was an Indian girl, they graduated and got their degrees in medicine, and at the same time, Dhritarashtra was facilitating all of the expenses necessary for Tulsi to go to school and to achieve her goals. So this lifestyle continued for quite some time, and again, one by one, we became saturated with life in the United States, and so we left, and we came back to India at different times, except for Pundarik. He's still trapped there, along with a wife, 2 kids, and many bills. So we came back, and I was very happy. Dhritarashtra and Tulsi were already here, and we resumed our friendship, and again began to experience many exciting adventures, going to Radhakund, going to Govardhan Hill, again cooking for each other, preparing nice foods, and most importantly is that we always attended the morning programs. So at this time there was no of these convenient automation things such as cell phones, even computers. There was no computers, and so when you gave a class, a Bhagavatam class, you had to rely on your intelligence and your ability to remember, and then speak from your heart what was being conveyed to us through Srila Prabhupada's books. So it's in many ways, it says that the departure of a devotee is a glorious thing. So in most cases we feel, sad, distraught, or this, but we should feel that this is a glorious time, because all of us, to different degrees and different numbers of years, have been engaged in Srila Prabhupada's service, and our intentions and our goal is that by following Srila Prabhupada, we will reap the reward of going back to Godhead. So don't think that when one of us dies, we are departing, and we should be overwhelmed with sadness, but we should be joyful that this devotee hopefully diligently has been following Srila Prabhupada's instruction, and now he is not here in this material world, suffering the pains and pleasures of these material bodies, but engaged in a wonderful pastime with Krishna. So I feel very fortunate to have had Dhritarashtra Prabhu as a friend for many, many years. And hopefully one day I can join with him.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Vicharane Navasesha Sunyavati Paschachade Zitarane Vanchakalpa Drubhyascha Kripa Sindhabhevyacha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudhi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Dhritarashtra Prabhu ki. Hare Krishna. I landed in Vrindavan about 1987. Although I lived here previously. 87 I came and I stayed until about 95. And at that time, I first started observing Dhritarashtra Prabhu. And like some of you all, I didn't have close association with Dhrits. But what I observed is that he was always a very peaceful person. And he was always a very humble person. He was always a person that you could just pretty much connect with straight up without any sort of fuss or any sort of tension. And I always saw him like that, just a pleasing, pleasant Vaishnava, practicing Vaishnava. And back in the early 90s, when Tulsi told me that she, wished to be married to Dhritarashtra Prabhu, I was thinking, such a wonderful blessing for my disciple, that she could have such a fine devotee for a husband, and they could become stalwart friends and partners and support in Krishna consciousness through the years. That idea about Dhritarashtra being humble and not making a fuss of things, always being pleasant and easygoing, sort of reflects in the way that he departed from this world. He got the call only in December that he was afflicted with cancer, and he just came to Vrindavan. And it wasn't a fuss, it wasn't a trauma. He just fixed his mind on attaining the mercy of Sri Vrindavan and attaining the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. And he left that way. One day I was seeing pictures on Instagram. He was associating with his friends. Next morning, got a call that he had left. So for all of us who have lived in Vrindavan for some time, we know that the goal that we're looking for is when that last breath goes out of our body, it can be in the dust of Sri Vrindavan. And he's another successful devotee that did that. And echoing the sentiments that Gopal Prabhu made when he spoke, echoing the sentiments that he expressed, what did Dhritarashtra do? Dhritarashtra Prabhu simply followed the program that was given to him by his spiritual master, and he was faithful to that program. And as Srila Prabhupada gave that program, Prabhupada said the fruit and the result will be going back to Godhead. An analogy could be when during the Damodar Leela, Krishna pulled down the Yamal Arjun trees, and Nalakuvara and Manigriva came out. And Krishna essentially just blessed them, and he told them, go back and finish up whatever you're doing in your planets, then go to the spiritual atmosphere. And then Krishna, according to different acharyas, was like, but please go, because I'm not so inclined to associate with people like you because you're materialists. But you should know for certain that the reason that I'm doing this is because you have seen the face of my pure devotee, Narada Muni, and he has blessed you in this way. Narada said, the curse will be on, but when the curse is finished, the first person that you'll see is the Supreme Lord, and he'll bless you with prema. So Narada established that standard for them, and Prabhupada established the standard for us. And Dhritarashtra Prabhu, he fulfilled that. And also echoing Gopal Prabhu's words, it's bitter, but it's sweet. Because we know that he was ideal, and we know that no longer he has to suffer in the material body, but having that benediction from Srila Prabhupada, now he has an appropriate body where he can associate with and serve Krishna eternally. I guess in conclusion, we should always come back to the point that Srila Bhaktivinoda has said, he reasons ill who say that Vaishnavas die while thou art living still and sound. The Vaishnav dies to live, and living tries to spread the holy name around. Dhritarashtra was still living, but he's living in a very good place. And while he was here, it was Sankirtan, it was Prashad, it was classes, it was following the instructions of his spiritual master. Dhritarashtra Prabhu ki jai. Hare Krishna.
So would one of the ladies, Mataji's, like to speak now? Tulsi?
I'm sorry if I start crying because I feel very emotional. I wanted to thank you all for being here. I wanted to thank you all for coming here. I know it would mean so much to Dhritarashtra. I wish it was more happy occasion that we all having pancakes in our house or nice lunch. But when we met, I was very young. I was in my 20s. I first came to Vrindavan. I was a devotee maybe for 5 or 6 years, so I was a very new devotee. I came here by the blessing of my Guru Maharaj. He gave me blessing to come to Vrindavan. And we happened to be neighbors with Dhritarashtra Prabhu. And it was a Kartik time, and I got very sick, regular Kartik cough and illness. And he started coming and bringing me medicine and basically taking care of me. And that's how our 29 years of together became. He was always taking care of me, and he always, like Guru Maharaj said, like other devotees said, he was always very peaceful. We never had any confrontations or fights, anything. We always just supported each other. Whatever I wanted to do, he was always, yes, of course, do it. Whatever service I wanted to do, he was always there to give me all his encouragement. And so we went Vrindavan till 2001, and then every summer we would go to America. He was making some money so we can stay in Vrindavan. And then I told him, I'm worried about our future. We're gonna get old. We don't have a pension. How are we gonna live? And I said, I want to stay back here and go to school and get a job. And I knew how much he loved Vrindavan. Vrindavan was everything to him. And Radhashyama Sundara, Krishna Balaram, Gauranitai were everything to him. But he still accommodated my request, and he stayed back with me in Alachua while I was going to school. He was supporting me to be able to get my education. Then I got a job, and that time also his mother became very ill, and we brought her to Alachua as well. So she was, so it was a kind of, he felt it was a blessing that we came to Alachua because we were able to take care of his mother. And she became a devotee as well. She came to the temple with us many times. He had a lot of prasadam, and her passing was very auspicious. He was just the most kind and the most gentle person you can ever meet, and he never had any enemies. He never had fights with anyone. He was always at the temple. When my mother came to Alachua also from Russia, I would go to work and he would take her to the temple. He would cook for her, he would feed her, and she was actually, right now my mother is in Mayapur, she has dementia, and when she came he was already in a hospital, and she hardly recognizes anyone right now. But I brought her to the hospital, and she saw him, and she gave him big hug, and she was patting him on the face, and she couldn't even say who he was, but she just she remembers that this is someone she really loves. And then my mother became devotee also, and she got initiated by my Guru Maharaj, and then I become sick while in America, and we decided to come back to India. So the past 7 years because I had to have frequent treatments. I had to stay in Udupi to have Ayurveda treatments, and I knew how much he wanted to be in Vrindavan, so I said, you stay in Vrindavan and we will have we'll just do arrangement like that. So, but we were constantly in touch. We talked to each other every day. We were sharing everything that was going on with us, and so in August he came to Udupi, and we did all kinds of treatments for him, but somehow we didn't know that he was that sick, and he didn't feel sick. Then when my mother was coming to Mayapur in December, we decided to move her to Mayapur. He said, I'm going to come and help you to settle her, because he was always ready to help me. Whatever I did, he was always there to help me. And when he came, he was having trouble breathing, and we thought he had pneumonia. And then I said, you got to go to the hospital and see maybe you need some antibiotics or something. But when he went to the hospital, they said he has cancer. And then in Bombay, they said it was stage 4. It was metastasized everywhere. And so I told him, what do you want to do? He said, I told him, why don't you come to Mayapur and I can take care of both of you, you and my mother. He said, no, I just want to go to Vrindavan. And they offered him to do chemo. They said it can prolong his life for maybe 2 or 3 years. And he said, no, I'm just going to go to Vrindavan. He never had, he was more worried about me, how I'm going to manage. He never had any kind of fear of receiving the diagnosis. Like he had no regrets. He had no, like, I never seen anyone like that, just being completely peaceful and accepting for what he just said. If Krishna wants to kill me, who can save me? And I was actually supposed to be in Mayapur, but when he said he was going to I was going to come here after Mayapur, because we thought he had more time. But when he said that he was having trouble breathing, I came here, and I'm so glad that I did, because we spent 10 days. We're associated, we talk a lot, we thank each other for all the service we did to each other in this lifetime. And then he just showed me, an example of how to be a devotee and how to face the final lesson in life, because he had no fear at all. He had no fear of death. I've never seen anything like that. I was a nurse for many years, and I worked, and I've seen a lot of people dying. And I know what it is. I know how people fear of death. And he's just, even his passion was, he knew if I was right there, I would be very, very distressed. So he snuck out just 10 minutes before I came to his hospital. He just left because he didn't want me to see him actually dying. And it was so peaceful when devotee was there. He said he just took a last breath. And when I came into the hospital room, I thought he was sleeping. He was just so peaceful. He had no agony on his face. I thought, no, he's just sleeping. He was in his favorite sleeping pose on the side. And then I know when the time comes for me to go, he will be, I know how to live a body now. He showed me how to surrender, how to be fearless, and how to go out of this world. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tosi Mataji. Who is? What's his name? Dinabandhu Prabhu will speak now.